Hey guys, Rob here, and I'm back with a follow-up video to the PC build video that I made just before Christmas 2018. As you can tell, it is now January 10th, 2019, and I actually have the day off, which is nice. So I figured I'd take a few minutes this afternoon and just make a quick follow-up video. I've had a couple of weeks now to play with this machine. I've done a lot of gaming on it. I did some benchmarking on it. I've done some tweaking. Right now I have all 8 cores running at 5.0 gigahertz at all times. I might change that maybe to where it boosts to 5.0 or maybe even 5.1. I'm not sure what I can get with it. I haven't pushed it too hard. I've left it pretty much at default voltage and default everything. I just changed the multiplier so it's running at 5 gigahertz on all cores all the time. That's really not pushing it too much. The AIO is, just a standard all-in-one cooler. It does have a push-pull configuration I ended up going with. I'll show you that in a minute when I open up the PC. But yeah, just wanted to kind of give you a quick kind of look at what I've done with it and what ended up going with the configuration. I will take it apart, well, not take it apart, but take off the sides so you can see a little bit better. There's a glass glare there, so that doesn't make it ideal to show you the innards. So I'll take that off, and then yeah, I guess I'll show you the cable management, which isn't the best in the world, but it got the job done. On the other side, it looks pretty good on this side. This case was really easy to work with and really easy to manage the cables, but on the other side, because of all the LED fans, it was just a cabling nightmare. But I got it reasonably managed, and I'll show you that in a bit. It's not this PC is actually just sitting on a table in the living room for now. It's not in its permanent home. I'm actually trying to figure out where I'm going to put it, but one thing I could do while I'm got the camera just in my hand and I can follow things around a little bit is show you. So you notice that the RGB now is doing something different. It's actually doing a sequential run through all the RGB devices, which is Visor, which is probably my favorite of all the different preset settings for the RGB. I haven't done really any custom stuff other than change the colors. But let me show you a little on the software. This is the iCue software, and there's been a lot of complaints about the previous versions, and this one is certainly, I would think, compared to what I've been reading, definitely an improvement of what it was before, but it's still got some bugs. And I'll show you a little bit of what I'm talking about. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with it because it is made by Corsair. It only controls the Corsair products. I actually have to run 2 other RGB software packages. One is our MSI Mystic Light, and that controls the MSI video card there, the GeForce RTX. I'm a little disappointed that the RTX logo doesn't light up, only the MSI logo with the little dragon. And then I also have to run, what is this one called? RGB Fusion. And that is the one that controls the motherboard lights. So they're not as robust as the iCue software. For example, this is, again, it's very plain. This is the RGB controlling the motherboard, and really you can only choose a zone, and like I can change a color, so you'll see, and then I have to apply it. So you'll see it changed. If it takes, I want to make that green, so you see that part of the motherboard's green, and you'll see that it turns green over there. And you can set it to different colors, like, I can select that again and then do red, and you'll see it turns red. Right now I have it set to blue because that's just what the other things are just running. It's running a blue scheme right now. The MSI one is breathing, or I don't know exactly what that, let's see, I can look at it, it's here. What is it running? Fade in. So it's running fade in. You can see 2 different angles for the card, and you can select 2 different colors. You can select the speed at which it fades in and out and the brightness. I've just got it breathing or fading in and out between my best attempt at getting silver or gray and blue. If you don't know, I'm a Cowboys fan, and if that turns you off, I figure most gamers are probably not sports fans as well, unless you're big into Madden. So I gotta think that most people that are watching this video, if you're interested in PC gaming, probably don't give a shit about any sports team, so they probably don't care. But anyway, I am a Cowboys fan, so I have it set to silver and blue as best I can produce silver, which is really just a form of white. And so I have the motherboard permanently on blue, and the video card kind of pulsating or fading in and out between silver and blue. And then I have the visor setting going between silver and blue, and it's really neat. So let's go ahead and follow that. You can't, I'm gonna open up the front case, or the front of the case, so you can see a little bit better. So this isn't a push-pull. You know what? I'm gonna take off, this is a good time to take off the glass so I can show you a little bit better. All right, I've got the glass off. Give you a little bit better look on the inside. So here is the radiator. That's what I was gonna show you. It is set up in a push-pull configuration. And what that means is that these two fans here, which are on the front, these are pushing air. This is actually the radiator here. This, when you see it's marked Corsair. All the fins are there. There's channels where the water runs through, and then fins help cool the water as it comes in from the CPU, and then it goes, of course, once it's cooled, it goes back to the CPU and it just runs in a closed loop. So to cool this, you usually either run it in a push configuration where you push cool air through the radiator, or a pull configuration where you pull the cool air through. Now, I've seen some tests done, and honestly, there's very little difference between push and pull. And you can also mount the radiator here where I have it in the front. You can mount it up here on the top. You can even mount it on the bottom, but I've gone with the front just because, I don't know, it was more aesthetically pleasing for me, and it just kind of the loop here actually ran really nicely that way, so I just went with the front. Basically, when you're in the front, you're taking cool air from the front of the machine. I have this on. This has some sound dampening stuff you can see here, but what it does when you close it, that limits the amount of air that you can bring in, and it's only going to bring it in through here, through the side grate, which it still does a pretty good job about doing. You can actually remove the front or leave the front open if you want more air to go through there. But what it does is it either pulls air from the front, either from there or from the side, and then it pulls it through as well. There's not a big benefit to doing a push-pull. I only did it this way because I had extra fans and it looked kind of cool. So I have the push-pull configuration, and up top I have three LL 120 millimeter fans. These are 140 millimeter fans on the cooler, and 140 millimeter fan here as an exhaust here. These are also exhaust right here, so they're taking all the hot air that gets generated in the case and it shoves it out. This brings in cool air to cool this. So it's kind of hard to see because the way that it's mounted, but there are three, they're not even running right now because there's no 3D stuff going on, but there are three fans on the Gaming X Trio, hence the name Trio, and this will basically just move air across the heating fins, or it's not really a radiator, the heat sink, which is here, and it uses the ambient, it doesn't bring anything in from anywhere, it just relies on these fans bringing in cool air, and then it runs it across the fence here to cool that, and then all the air is exhausted either through the top or through the back. Now what I've done for the configuration of the RGB stuff is set it up in a way where it's in a loop, right? So the end of the loop starts here, or the beginning, however you want to think about it, and then it goes up through here, and then through these memory modules to the cooler, and then then up here to the top, so it goes from the cooler to the strip. There's a strip that's kind of hard to see. And these are magnetic strips. They have backing on them. So let me show you. They have peel stick backing, but since they're magnetic, there's really no need for it. And so I've got them just kind of stuck magnetically just to the case. So it goes from the cooler, or from the block, up to this, it's kind of hard to see, strip. And then it comes down, there's a strip here, then through here, and then it hits this fan, that fan, that fan, that fan, and then it comes to the outside, hit these two fans, and then it comes to the external peripherals, the mouse pad, the mouse, I ended up this I was debating getting this, I ended up getting it. The headset stand has RGB on it, the headset, and then the keyboard itself. So, and this is the other end of the loop. So it goes When it comes to here, then you'll see it bounces back, and then we'll follow it. It's kind of going kind of fast. That goes up through there, and then down through there, and then it's going to go through the a little too close. And when the only problem I have, and you can see it there, is when the memory modules they're a little slower to respond than any other device. So when the RGB loop is going this way and then it hits the CPU, it does that and then it hits the memory modules and it comes to these two and then it bounces back. When it bounces back, you see how it did the CPU and then the memory modules, which looks a little weird, because coming this way it goes this, then this, back to here, then to here, and then it does this. And I think it's just because the memory modules just are slower to respond. I'm not sure if that's because I'm running the software also to, because you can actually, the memory modules are the only other thing that the software for the Aorus motherboard will control. Although I haven't had any luck doing it, it's supposed to be able to control. I can technically get the memory modules to light up the same color as the motherboard is lighting, but because it's more dynamic and it's part of the Corsair ecosystem, I just use the Corsair software to do it. Now, you can actually tell if you don't have LED memory, then you can just put them in there, because there's actually LEDs between, on this particular motherboard, there's LEDs between the memory modules, which are really neat. Now I can make those pulsate or whatever, but right now I just have them set to blue, just because I can't get them to all sync. So I have these fading in and out, but if I have that pulsating and this pulsating and then this thing going around and they're all kind of like discombobulated, it doesn't look very good. So I just have those permanently blue. I might just leave these permanent blue, but I don't know. I kind of like the effect so far of leaving it going between silver and blue. So yeah, other than the memory being a little weird, the only other problem I have is with this mouse pad. Sometimes, I don't know why, it just goes red. Just red all along the mouse pad, and it just doesn't respond to anything. It just red all the time. Right now it's properly working. If that happens, you basically have to force close the iCue software and then restart it, and then it starts to behave normally again. And for some reason, when I lock the machine, right, so I lock it, it just goes back to funky rainbow again. That's what you saw when I first started the video. And that's sort of annoying. I don't know why it does that. The video card and the motherboard don't. They stay what they're supposed to be. But every one of the Corsair products just goes nuts. And that's sort of annoying. And then once I log back in, you know, then you'll see it switches back to the visor setting, which is what I have. Yeah, so pretty annoying. The other thing is, not really annoying, but I guess I can understand. If you check the order of which it does the peripherals, when it gets to the headphones, it's assuming that you're wearing them. So it only flashes that blue when it gets to about the middle of the keyboard, because it assumes, do you see it? Do you see when it flashed? It was about here. So it looks a little weird because it'll flash through here, go here, and then right when it lights this up, it lights that up. But normally you're wearing them, and honestly, when you're wearing them, you don't even see it. This is like the only RGB it has. It's just these things on the side. The headphones themselves are actually really nice. They're very comfortable, a little bit loose. I don't have like the smallest head or the biggest head in the world. It's pretty, I find that if I wear like medium to large baseball caps when they're sized that way. But it's still a little bit loose, but they're very comfortable. They sound great. The microphone works fairly well from what I can tell when I play with my friends. And yeah, overall, I definitely recommend them. This thing, when it lights up in conjunction with, you can see when this mouse pad lights up, this lights up. So it's assuming that it's lined up. I really wish that the iCue software, let me bring that up, would have a way to designate where your devices are in the loop, so that you can tell it like, hey, I have my base on this side, you know, or I want my headphones to flash a little bit earlier, or I want to put a delay on something here so that the memory is synced up correctly. Otherwise, you're kind of reliant on just however wants to do it. Now, one thing is, you can put these in the wrong order. I mean, if you're doing a sequential thing like this, if you're doing like, so you can do something like instant lighting and say green's my favorite color. So let's go to the green. So if I do that, like everything instantly goes green. Now, except for, of course, the motherboard and the video card, which I have to use its own software to do that, so that's kind of annoying. But everything just goes green. So instant lighting red, and everything is red, etc., etc. Or I can turn that off, and it should go back to what I've set here, which is a cowboy visor, which is supposed to, and you can see the silver and blue kind of going through. But yeah, that's kind of, you can actually control each of the individual things. Like I can control, that's the mouse pad. I can control one of the, I can't do it now. You can control, you can see like it's doing it in real time. When it does it here, it'll do it up here. You can see it again. These are individually addressable. So I can click, it's not doing it now, but there's a way to click each of the individual sections and make them light up. You can also do that for the lightning, well, the strips. It's a little bit, the mouse doesn't really do a whole lot. It has a few pieces of RGB here, and I don't even remember where else. And most of the time you're not going to see the mouse either. I really wish it would keep the setting when you have the lock screen up, because that's going to be a lot of the time where you're looking at the mouse and the headset is when the lock screen's up. I think it just is this, and yeah, maybe just be just this. But anyway, there are the software also controls a lot of other stuff besides just RGB. For the mouse, for example, it controls the DPI. For the keyboard, you can set up a whole bunch of macros. Like here are the macros for here. I forgot what these do. So that one I have for a calculator, because there's no calculator button on this, and I missed that. And some of these, I can't remember what I've said. Oh, that one's Windows Explorer. So you can set them up for different things. You can set them up for macros. So those are pretty cool. This is you got 6 macro buttons on this keyboard, but you can do a lot of things besides just like, for example, here's the cooler. It tells you the different settings you have. You can do performance and change the different settings for balance, extreme, etc. For all the different things. So it's kind of neat that it controls everything. It's not quite set up. So I talked a lot about that. Let me show you a little bit on the other side, and then I think we'll probably end with some little performance stuff. This is the result of about almost 3 hours. I did it through a Cowboys game. I was watching a Cowboys game and doing this. I let it sit for about 2 weeks where the cables were everywhere. I'll see if I can put a picture. I took a picture of it before. It was horrendous. I didn't even know if I was going to be able to fit the panel back on, because there were so many cables. The problem is every single fan has 2 leads coming out of it, one for power and then one for RGB, and it was just a nightmare. So you see that I had to figure out which fan had to be plugged into which port, because if you plug them in the wrong way, your visor or your sequential type of RGB stuff won't work, because, well, they'll work, but they'll work out of order. So it's a really huge pain in the ass. And anyway, so I don't know if you can tell, but I basically cut up, this was during the Christmas holidays, so I cut up some Christmas, what are they called, tags, some sticky tags, some gift tags, and I just labeled them with the different fans, so that I knew where, while it was in a big jungly mess, I found out what the correct order was, then I labeled them, disconnected everything, put it nicer, and then reconnected it. And it turned out okay. At least it closes. You'll notice that previously I had this 10 gig, when I put up the picture you probably saw it. I had a 10 gig here, and I was gonna put the other 10 gig here. It's wired, so it's ready to go for a hard drive, but I ended up just returning them because I just didn't need them. And they were a very, very good price, but I needed a monitor more, and I'd already bought the monitor. I'm like, you know what, it's not like hard drives don't go down in price. So when I need storage, I'll just rebuy them. So I have it wired for one, and the other one I will go ahead and take care of when I need to. But there's just, I don't know if you can see, it is just a huge mess of wires. And down here I have an NZXT, it's hard to see, an NZXT USB hub, because it takes a lot of USB to control all those fans. There's so many fans. And what I ended up doing is I had to buy a USB hub, because I only had 2 internal USB 2.0 slots on the motherboard, and I needed at least 3. so I had to put hub on there, but it ended up working. It was only like 20 bucks. Amazon Prime now had it in stock, so it was delivered like the same day, so no big deal. Here's my SSD. This is where all my games are installed. The M.2 NVMe stuff, I guess I could point them out to you on the other side, but they're under some heat sinks. So there's one there, that heat sink right in the middle, that has one of the, that has the 1 terabyte, and then down here's the other one. Kind of hard to see. I think it's actually underneath the card. Yeah, you can kind of see it there right in the center. But that has the OS drive. That's the nice thing about NVMe drives. They are so tiny. It's basically like plugging in RAM. It's essentially like plugging, these have heat sinks on top of them, which makes it look nice because it covers up the labels. But you don't need to have heat sinks on them. You just, that little silver part right in the middle there, you just slide the NVMe in there, push it down, put a screw down, and that's it. NVMe's are super easy, very fast, and they're coming down in price, so highly recommend. Cable management was really good on this not console, on this case. They have all these grommets here where you can run the cables. There's a lot of heavy cables. There's grommets everywhere, so you can see, if you look for them, you're gonna find them. There's some down here, but you can see they've wisely put grommets in the most common places where you would need them, so you hardly see any cables, which is nice. Also, this PSU, the PlayStation, Jesus. The power supply unit is in this PSU shroud, so it's kind of, you can't see it. It's ventilated. The shroud, gosh, I can't even talk. The PlayStation on the brain for some reason. The power supply is actually pretty nice looking, but in any case, it's covered by this thing and it looks really good. So that's really all for, I think, that, look inside the machine. So let's go ahead and take a look at some performance benchmarks and see how the games run. Be right back. So one of the cool things that could happen with RGB is something like iCue integration in games. There's a very short list of games that support it. I'm looking at a forum post on the Corsair user forums that state that Diablo 3, Far Cry 5, Homefront: The Revolution, Neverwinter, I don't know if that's a particular Neverwinter Nights or something, and Unreal Tournament, the pre-alpha version, which I think is the only one that's released, they all support iCue, which means that in theory you could have games that control the RGB lighting depending on what's happening in the games. If you're getting hurt, it could be glowing red. If you're, I don't know, in need of a particular power-up, you can get it so it could blink at you to let you know, all kinds of things. Far Cry 5 actually does implement it. It works fairly nice. It's not the best possible implementation that I could think of, but it is in there. It's a full-fledged game, and it looks pretty cool, so I'm going to show you that right now. Far Cry 5 itself is actually a pretty fun game. I'm running all my games at 1440p because this is a 1440p monitor. Again, this is the Dell S2716DG. There's also a DGR, which is the exact same thing as the DG, except it's the retail version, the one not sold by Dell. But as far as I know, it's identical in every other way. So launching Far Cry, you can already see the RGB is going kind of crazy. There's a red, white, and blue theme. I've got the Afterburner, OSD on right now, and I put it in a really big font, so hopefully you guys can see it. Let's skip that. And yeah, it's really cool because you can tell already it's gone all red, white, and blue. I don't think that the video is picking up exactly how cool it looks. The colors are actually, I'm looking at the preview video, it doesn't look as sharp, as bright, as awesome as it looks in real life. So you kind of have to believe me when I tell you it looks really, really cool. So we're going to go ahead and continue. I think I'm at a point where I can get to some things that could alter the color. Normally, if you're not in the menu, it just goes to like a bluish color. And you'll see right here. So I'm getting about, so there's kind of a blue teal look. So I am running about 150 frames per second. And you'll see the GPUs are about 68 degrees, CPUs around there too in the 60s. GPU is fully utilized right now. It's 1890. It boosts up to over 2000 sometimes. I have overclocked it before and it runs just fine over 2000. The CPU, so the memory is running at 3600. I overclocked it from 3200. I don't think I mentioned that before. I overclocked it to 3600 CAS 15, which is really good. And that's a default voltage, so I may be able to go even higher. But for now, it works really well, and it's just silky smooth. You can see as I'm running through, I mean, the resolution is just amazing. It's not 4K, but this would actually run, if I had a 4K monitor, it would actually run 4K at least 60 frames per second. Let's see if we can find some water. Oh, there's a little lake there, so we'll put that marker there and see if we can run in that direction. So I currently have the sniper rifle from, what is that, 80s Far Cry? I can't remember at the moment. There's a, man, what's it called? It's bugging me. Oh well, you can look it up. There's an 80s, I think it was based on Far Cry 3 or Far Cry, I think it was Far Cry 3. Blood Dragon, I think is what it's called. If you own Blood Dragon, it gives, oh god damn it, it gives you kind of Blood Dragon themed, 80s themed. Can I, yeah, I can parachute. Weapons and cars and stuff like that. The game is pretty fun. I've been playing mostly in co-op multiplayer with friends of mine. But so you'll see here, as I enter the water, that you can see it kind of turns like a muddy, kind of brownish green color. It happens on the keyboard, on everything on the mouse pad, and then when you come back out, it'll go back to blue. Let's see if I can find some dudes to shoot or to have shoot me, because that's when you can also get effects. So there's somebody, I think up here someplace. Yeah. Hey dudes, here, let me kill you. And that should send, yeah. So now you see I'm getting hit and it's turning all kinds of crazy colors. Oh wow, I 2-for-1 them. That was cool. This game is pretty fun, but again, I've only played it in co-op, so it seems like it might be a little redundant if you played it by yourself, but still. Oh, what is that, cougar or something? A wolf. Yeah, so this game runs amazingly. 117, 119 frames per second. Again, 1440p. Everything's on ultra. I can actually show you that. So we can go to options and video, and let's look at so everything's on ultra. And you should see 2560 by 1440. Refresh rate's 144, which is the refresh rate of the monitor. I don't have HDR, does not support it on this monitor, but that's okay. V-Sync's turn off because I have G-Sync. And actually, let's run a quick benchmark here. There's a benchmark. Do I have to change something in order to? No, there should be. Do I have to quit? I might have to quit out of the game actually. That's probably what's keeping me from being able to run the benchmark. Because usually under the settings there, so we go options, video, there it is, tested benchmark. So we'll run a quick benchmark here. It doesn't take that long. Just running 30 there, that's interesting while it loads up. Wow, okay, so it's giving that RGB effect of like being underwater. I'm looking at the preview and it looks not the same. It's hard to duplicate the colors that it's showing me in real life. But what are we running? About 130 frames per second. Everything on ultra, 1440p, just silky smooth. And I know I can overclock the GPU. I'm surprised. I think I messed with the software some and I didn't set it to overclock. Let's do a little test. Let's run it one way and then overclock it and see how much, if any, difference does it make. I mean, it should make some, but I don't know if it's going to be significant. So we have a minimum of 114, a maximum of 145, and an average of 129 frames per second, which even at 114, anything above 60 is going to look good. 90, some people can tell up to 90, but at 114 to 150, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. So yeah. So that looks pretty good. 131 average, 114, 151. So let's. I wonder if I can do dynamically. Let's bring up MSI's Afterburner. So we're gonna up the core clock about 100. I know I've done this before, so 106. Let's apply it. And then let's see, let's rerun the benchmark and see if it actually boosts that high. Yeah, so it's boosting to about a little over 2,000, right? It may not make that, honestly, at this point, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between 134 and 129 frames per second. But it's, you know, it's just one of those things. As a PC gamer, you want to get the absolute most you can out of your hardware. And there's kind of a game within that, right? There's a meta where the game is to get as much out of your hardware for the least amount of money possible. And it's just a thing, you know, like, well, I get 5 more frames per second. Who cares? True, really. If I put the same game in front of you where it's boosted to 2,000 and not boosted to 2,000 on the GPU, I guarantee you nobody's going to be able to tell the difference. But once you know it's there, it's a thing, and you just want it. So same thing with the memory. I think I boosted it up from 32 to 36, and it went up like, I don't know, 7, 8 frames per second or something like that. And well, combined with this, you know, now you're talking 15, 20 frames per second. So it did go up a little bit, I guess, 133. So, you know, that's an option. And the game looks great. So let's see, what other game do I want to show you? The other game I've been playing a lot of is Quake Champion, but I don't think that it comes with, oh, Battlefield. Let me show you Battlefield because it has ray tracing. So this is the only game that I know of to this day that supports ray tracing. And if you don't know what ray tracing is, it's hard to explain in a short period of time. But essentially, it is reflections and how they're handled by the game. Normally, when you do reflections in a game, what they would do before ray tracing is this kind of mirror. Like say your character was above a puddle of water. So it mirrors whatever's above the puddle of water, you know, it flips it over, and then it just renders parts of it, whatever falls into that puddle. But Jay's 2 Cents has a really good video on this. If you were to get behind a truck and you could still see your feet and you would normally still be in the puddle, but you couldn't see it, it wouldn't show you because it's not rendering the part that's behind the truck, even though underneath the truck there may be a puddle. So you won't see the reflection anymore because it's not rendering it behind the truck, because that would be dumb to render objects that you can't see. So when it doesn't render that, it won't render the reflection, even though you would be able to see the reflection in the puddle because the person would still be on the other side of the truck. So in this case, ray tracing, what it does is actually it renders based on light and not on mirroring the object. So it's a subtle thing. Let me just play here. Single player. You know what? Let me check my options and make sure. No, not control. Video. Where's advanced? There's advanced. So so it's a resolution. Okay, frame over 200. DXR is enabled, so ray tracing is on, and it's running everything on ultra max fidelity. Basically everything's set as high as possible. The resolution is set to 2560 by 1440, 144 hertz, which is again 1440p, and has the monitor in there and everything. So let's go ahead and just load that up. So play War Stories. We'll just start there and play. You know, whatever. We're just not even going to play. So it should get, even with ray tracing on at 1440p, it should get over or very close to 60 frames per second. It might have some drops below 60, but it still looks amazing. If you turn off ray tracing, it's going to go to like 100 and something. So still very impressive. Can I skip this? Unfortunately, there's no SLI support, so even if you had the money and the means to get a second 2080 Ti, it's not going to help you a whole lot. You could go to a Titan, but man, that's double the price of a 2080 Ti, and it's like maybe 5% more or 10% more in gaming. it's very little for the amount of money that you have to spend to get a Titan. So let's put a little sound on there for effect. Boy, it is. Yeah, we get it. Are you really loading, or you must be loading? And that's because it's loading off of an SSD with everything super fast. I mean, you see the CPU's running 5 gigahertz. I mean, can't get much better than what it is. It's just taking time. I can't even imagine what this would be on, like, on a slow machine. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh, please wait, loading. Wonderful. I haven't played very much of this at all. I've played mostly Far Cry and Quake Champions, and boy, it's taking a while. I love this little rocker for the volume. It sure beats like the individual buttons for volume up and then there's, of course, there's the mute. But yeah, I love this part of the keyboard. It's a heavy metal, kind of, I don't know, gnarled metal or something with good grip on it. It's great. Skip. Yeah, we want to skip. All right. Oh, snow level. So I don't even know. Snow's not going to show you. This may not have been the ideal. Oh shit. I've never played this level. This may not be the ideal level to show you ray tracing, unfortunately. Oh crap. Why am I... This is ridiculous. Why am I snowboarding, skiing in this game? Well, what are we getting? 75 frames per second, 74. Again, that's 1440p with ray tracing. So initially, when this first came out, the ray tracing performance was abysmal. You would be getting like 30, maybe 40 frames per second. But now, since they released a patch, I don't know what the heck they did at a technical level, but it went up like 50% or more. The performance did, the frames. So running, 80. Again, not a whole heck of a lot on the screen. Not a whole lot of reflections going on right now. Man, I did a poor job in selecting a level that would have maybe this stuff. Ice? No. Oh shit, there's an enemy. I was hoping to... I have no idea what my buttons are. What read? Okay. Can I down the sights? I might just freaking die here. So what are we? We're still at 80. Very playable. This is, instead of finding cultists from Montana, I'm finding Nazis again. So whatever. I just want some dang reflections. Still, this does look very pretty. There we go. Maybe once we get into the base. Oh, this is too much game and not enough pretty that I want to show. Oh, somebody's shooting. Whoa. Solid frame rate. Again, not much going on though. No explosions, no reflections. Oh, hi. Hi. Oh, yeah. There's a... you can't beat a bunker like that. And I don't really want to sit here and play the game. I just wanted to show you some stuff. Can I throw grenades or something? Anyway. Well, I think you get the idea. It runs marvelously. What is that? Oh, it's a mortar or something? Man, this game looks like it would be super fun. Man, the snow looks really good. Can't find any shiny objects. Where's the ice? I don't even know if I'm going the right way. I'm going the wrong way probably. Flare going up. Oh, that looks nice. The Northern Lights. Oh, hello. Dang it, maybe I should have killed them instead of just maimed them. How do I... Oh, that throws grenades. Man, why do these dudes not go down? These are bullets, guys. These are bullets. Why are you not dying? Am I a girl? I sound like a girl. There was a girl in the cover. Maybe I'm playing the girl level. I don't even know. Am I playing the boy or the girl? Can't tell. Man, this game is pretty. Even without the reflection showing in a bunch of stuff. God, the snow. It's... You're getting a... You're not even getting a direct feed, but man... Oh gosh. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Stop doing that. You're just shoot. Oh my god. That's okay. I needed to die so I could stop playing. Anyway, the game works. I don't know if it I don't think it has a yeah, I don't think it has a benchmark built into it, so we can't do that. But anyway, game looks great. Performance is really good. Again, with ray tracing off, it's even better. You definitely can hit over 100 frames per second at 1440p. So I'm really happy with the performance. Really happy with the, mostly happy with the RGB. I wish more things took advantage of it. But even still, it works pretty well. Yeah, overall, super happy with the build. If you have any questions, let me know. If you think I missed anything, I probably missed a lot of things, and I made you watch pointlessly as I played through the snow level without actually showing you any good ray tracing stuff. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. You might see some more PC videos from me in the future, but it's time to kind of put this thing together and put it in its permanent home so I can get to actual gaming. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, let me know. If you don't, let me know as well. But yeah, just do this for fun. So see you next time.